we burn this piece of paper. And sorry about that noise. And when I went to go burn this piece of paper, I of my old me beliefs, I really had a moment, Blanca, where I was like, I know I don't want this, but it's how I know where I am in the world. I've never known myself any other way. And yet I burned it.
Welcome, everybody, to my podcast, Renew Motherhood. And I love this episode because I have got a wonderful guest here, Laura. And I'm so happy that you're here, that you like to share about your story. And it's about mindset and how you place your thoughts in the right direction that lead you, that guide you, that bring you forward to the best that you have. So I'd like to hand it over to you, Laura. Please briefly introduce yourself. Who are you? Where are you from?
Oh, thank you, Blanca. My name is Laura Lavrencik. I live in San Diego, California, Solana Beach. And what I do is I work with women and with people that want to reset their mindset to have a different trajectory of their life.
That's wonderful. So how did you come across this topic? Because it's not, we have got different topics, and this is a special one to work on the mindset. What does it mean? And how do you come across this?
Well, God, let me tell you the truth. I mean, I'm driving, in home from work, and I really felt like I knew there was some things that happened to me in the past in my childhood. I knew what they were, how I was raised. There were some things that went on in my home that shouldn't have happened. And I worked through a lot of this. I mean, I have done a lot of work, but yet I really felt, the sense of woundedness. I want to say, like, I really felt like I had this kind of wounded self-image. It was almost like this kind of a thing that held over in the screen of my mind that I felt. When the world stood still or when my life wasn't moving, I really just had this set point of where I really felt sad, and I just felt kind of wounded. It's how I saw myself, and I knew it was there. I had the knowledge of it, like I'm explaining. I knew what it was. And then I, was in a relationship that wasn't working right, and I felt really frustrated. And that frustration that I felt was so familiar. I'm like, God, I felt this way before. I felt this way in my childhood. And I really searched inward. I said a little prayer. What should I do? I had some different things that I could have done about this problem. And it came to me to watch this weekend, online event with Bob Proctor. And I'm like, I have to do something about me. I can't, I'm locked in this way of thinking. And I went on this event, and I started to listen to Bob talking about, we become what we think about. We have this self-image, if you will. It's like this cybernetic mechanism, and it totally projects our life. And it comes from the shaping of what we were told of when we were children, and we believed it, and we became it. I'm like, that makes sense to me. I went through that. I relate to that. And when he said, you can change it, that really got my attention. And so we were learning how to change it on that weekend. And then from there, I just kept going forward. So that's exactly what happened.
Oh, wow. That's impressive because going through, well, we all have got our packages from childhood. I think some have got more, some have got less. Do you like to share a bit of this? What was
Oh
it
my God, I would love
you
to.
have to change?
Well, and the best way that I can share it is from my most, current event. Becoming aware, like I logically knew, I was told, by my father, by my parents, I was locked in basements. You make me sick, get away from me. What are you thinking? Like I knew, like these things were happening in our home. I knew that I had to keep secrets. I knew I just felt bad about myself, but honestly, I couldn't change that. And having the experience of things happen in my home, that shouldn't have happened, I want to say there was like a layer of shame. I just felt dirty also, and it kept showing up in relationships. I'm like, and in my life at certain events, I'm like, well, logically, I could think need to work through grief, or there's all this kinds of work that I need to do. And it all has its place, like the path. But what happened for me is, because I have an awareness that this programming, this thinking is there, what happened for me is I became aware. I was sitting at my dining room table and I was looking at a memory from childhood, actually. I was praying to a power greater than myself to help me resolve this problem. I had this conflict going in my inner life, not that long ago in March, where it's like I wanted to speak and talk about things like this, but something was holding me back. It's like, I can't be me. And I was praying to this power greater than myself. It happened to be Mary, Mother Mary. And within a few hours, I was sitting at my dining room table, opening a package that my mother had put away for me when I was maybe 7 years old, and I'm 59, and my mother's been dead for years, but I just had this package, this unopened package. When I opened up this package, there was a few things that I had written in Sunday school about, to my parents. And there was an art book that I created when I was 5 years old about, the colors and had drawings in it. And I was recalling a memory about when I was 5. And I was recalling a memory when I was 5 years old. And I remember the story like it was yesterday. I was looking out from the coat room, right? And we had a new teacher, and she was just lovely. Her name was Mrs. Lawrence, and she had this beautiful dress on. She was very friendly, very kind, very loving, like a different energy than I felt like in my home. And I'm like, oh my God, I just wanted to go be near her. And she was inviting all the other children over to sit down next to her, and she was going to read. And it was standing in the coat room in the same room, but yet I felt so much distance apart. And I felt sad and I felt afraid. I remember feeling that. And my voice inside my head just said, don't go over there. She doesn't want you. She doesn't want you around her. She doesn't like you. She likes the other children better. I remember feeling sad, feeling lost, feeling alone,
Wow, I get goosebumps.
feeling rejected.
Wow.
And just getting on the bus and going home and feeling more that way and feeling like there was no hope. And I was 5.
Oh,
Now, when I was sitting in my dining room, sorry, not that long ago, and I think it was March 23rd, I'm recalling this very same memory, but then yet something happened. Like all of a sudden, I had this huge awareness that I wanted to just say dropped in, and I just went, oh my God, you know, that's not me, you know, that's not who I am. That perception, that lens that I had felt and seen myself through my whole entire life. She doesn't want me. She doesn't like me. This is, it's like, it's just who I was all of the programming, the conditioning that I received when I was a childhood. And I could see all of a sudden it was like it was gone. I was like, oh my God, that's not who I am. That's not who I am. I was never that person. Unfortunately, the story, I could see it clearly, like aware of it clearly. Unfortunately, I was dropped in a household where the picture was painted. It was
yeah.
already painted for me. It was already painted for me that I was going to be told these things, so I would feel bad. So, and this is, the people in my life, my parents have had awarenesses afterwards. I'm not, coming from a place from saying it was right, nor coming from a place that's saying I'm a victim. I'm just saying this is how it was. And 58 years later, it still had a control over me. It still had a control over me. In my life, I was trying to outperform the self-image. I was trying to, coming from a relationship of just feeling like I was gonna be rejected on the inside. It wasn't what I knew. It didn't matter how smart I was, how accomplished I am, all the things that I've done, how people look at me and they go, you could have whatever you want. It's how I felt about myself that was still there. And I had this awareness. I'm like, this isn't who I am. I was lied to. I was born in a lie. I was born in this lie of events that at all costs, and this is really a great example of this programming. There was stuff going on in this home, and it was painted, by my father and by, initially just he didn't want my mother to believe that she could leave. He didn't want my mother to believe that for her to believe that she was stupid, that she couldn't live without him, that she couldn't leave, and that anger and that frustration kept her stuck, and she was part of this thing. And I can't imagine, just how she lived and how painful that was, and just going through that with her and her children and all of that. And I could just see that the whole thing was a lie. I'm like, oh my God, it was a lie. I was a lie. I was
Oh,
completely, this isn't even who I am. I'm living in
yes.
this world for 59 years. This isn't even
Wow.
who I am. And it was like, I was like, oh my God, this isn't me. I was never this person. And I was like so grateful. I had all these different emotions going on at the same time. And yet that's why I love this work so much, because it just gives me a great example. That paradigm, that belief system that I had when I was a little kid, I couldn't recognize it at first, even 58 years later, 59 years later, because my father's voice became my voice.
Hmm.
So it was my voice that said, and it was just there. Don't go there. They don't want you. And that belief system, if you will, kept me in a box. It was deliberate, it was on purpose. At all costs, I would never speak, no matter where they were. They had full control over me. I would never talk to another person. I would never tell them what was going on in my home. I carried the shame. I believed it was me. It kept me, my belief system, it's a great example. It kept me from walking across the room. I could not go across the room. I
Yes.
could not sit with those other children. I did not feel worthy. It affected everything in my life. And yet when it was erased, I'm like, I can do anything.
Oh,
I'm in the middle of, I'm
what a
working.
transformation to a butterfly.
And I'm so grateful. And I'm so grateful. And of course, this is my story. This is an example. And I get to work with alongside Kim Calvert, and you've met some of these people that have worked with Bob Proctor that are really into like shaping our belief system and where do we want to go from here? What would we love to see happen? And I'm so grateful that I get to be here, because some of us never make it here, and just how really important it is. And when we change our beliefs, and we can change them, we can decide who it is we are. We can
That's
decide.
wonderful. So
Yeah,
it's actually to get out of the suffering side, of the victim side, to be active, to act really on your life and to change your life like you wanted to have, right?
exactly. And I could not do that until that belief system was changed, because it was at the core of everything. It's just how I felt in the morning. It was my automatic set point. It just was there. It's how I knew myself. I didn't have any other concept of myself until it was changed, until it was removed. I'm like, oh, okay, none of this is true. And then when you go and I can decide now, I'm worthy, what would I love to see happen? Then installing these new beliefs and taking new actions is just much easier because I'm not trying to outperform this old self-image. And I didn't have to go be smarter. I didn't have to go you know, prove myself. You
Mm.
know, I didn't have to leave my dining room or work it out with my parents or have them say they were sorry. This work just, that we do, that you're doing, it changes the past. I got to heal them and just heal all the way forward. And I know that you have mothers on here, and I got to tell you, a huge something happened, with me and the forgiveness of my mom, because we were on a long journey. And, I never did have children. And I just want to say it's because deep down I knew that I didn't want to hand these kind of beliefs and feelings and things over to somebody else because it was so painful. And now that I know about this material and what we do, I know that I could, you know. So, if you are a mother, if you are someone, or you've had some things happen in your past, you can completely change the future. And the beliefs are hereditary. So that's where they're all at. A lot of it's unconscious because if you,
Yeah.
you know, the way I speak, the words I use are still part of the conditioning of some of my family, but it's so deep but we can change everything in an instant. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, sometimes it's a process and you just
It
have
is
to
a
trust
process.
and follow it and don't give up. I think this is the crucial to say, okay, I can't see a result. I stop here. It doesn't make sense to me. It is what it is. I'm a victim. I'm suffering. That's my life.
That is so really what you said is the most key thing that anyone can say. What happens is we believe we're our results because we believe we are results. This happened to me. I'm this way because of my past, and I'm this way because this shaped this, or the economy, or, you would be this way too if you had these things going on in your life. And none of that's true. When it's true that all these things happen and we have felt this way and this is what we know, but there's something underneath it. And underneath it is the beliefs.
Yes.
And when we understand that we work from the inside out, like you were saying, it's repetitive, like on a daily basis. On a daily basis, I do my gratitude. I'm tuning into a different frequency. I'm aligning myself with like-minded people. I'm aligning myself with people that are going in a positive direction. It's kind of like I can't stay on this bus of the past if I'm aligning to what I want to be and where I want to go in the future. So that's really a wonderful thing, that anything can happen, and not being a victim and being in control of responding and not reacting, but like I get to choose, I get to choose. I'm not linked to the past. And when I'm a victim, that's how I was. It was my experience until I had the awareness and the support and the way to change.
That's wonderful. Well, it brings in my mind that where is the starting point? Where has this been for you? It was the pain that you felt, and then somehow you need a starting point where to go. So what was this for you?
The starting point for me, there was like several, but I want to say the most recent starting point for me was, I knew about my past, and I knew, that I had these, I guess you could call them kind of like pockets of pain on the inside, or ways that I felt. And the starting point for me was, it was doing it like a 3-day event, like Kim Calvert has one that's coming up in the Source that we're doing together. And it's a 3-day event with Bob Proctor. It was just listening and learning about awareness and another way to think. Like, it really got my attention. And the starting point of what I knew of why I needed that in my life today was a couple of years ago. God, I was in this relationship and it wasn't working. And I kept trying to go back and getting it right. It was almost like an adrenaline hit. He would break up. I try to get it right. I try to get it right to be loved. I was trying to get it right to be loved. And something about it was like, if only I wear blue, if only I am more polite, and he kept treating me worse and worse. And like I said, on one level, I could say that in my professional life, I have been blessed with success, but in my relationships, this was really grabbing my attention. We had broken up, and he was going to take me on this trip for my birthday. But we had broken up, and then he represented it to me in a different way, that I could still go on this trip with him as friends. The way that it was said to me, I felt so bad. And I had this awareness. Luckily, I was speaking with a mentor as well. And I said, he said X, Y, and Z to me. And my mentor said, and he's available for that level of cruelty if you choose it. And I was thinking to myself, God, somebody's going to come in and save me. Somebody's got to come in and do something. Somebody's got to come in. And, I was in this feeling just so raw, staring out my living room window. Like I said, I've got all this going on. This is what's really happening in my world. And then I realized nobody's going to do it. It's got to be me. And I didn't feel strong at the time. I didn't feel confident at the time. I didn't feel any more than, I might have felt when I was a little kid in my house, but it was like, someone's got to draw a line in the sand. And that was my line in the sand, and it was me. And I'm like, I just made a decision.
Yeah.
And learn that with the material from Bob Proctor. Like, we can just make a decision wherever we are with whatever we have. And with the little bit of strength I had, I'm making a decision. I'm drawing the line in the sand today that I know I have to do this. I knew I had to do this inner work so my outside results would be different. Like, he was reflecting back to me what I thought I deserved, the self-hatred that was going on, and until I changed that by doing some inner work, which, we guide other people through, that I was going to keep getting the same results. And that was my moment. That was my moment. And so, I jumped into this, couple-day event. It was like a 5-day event going on with Kim Calvert. That was the beginning of my journey. And I did some inner work and resetting my inner compass, this set point, this feeling point, this attraction. We pull in what we're putting out. And I was putting out this wounded kind of rejection. I got what I thought I deserved. Didn't like myself, so he didn't like me either. And all of this was unconscious. None of it was what I said I wanted. None of it
No,
was
no one wants to have a toxic relationship. No one wants to
no,
suffer this way. But
no.
actually, I
Go ahead.
think it's so crucial to understand that if you don't do the inner work, and even if you cut the relationship, the next one would be similar.
Exactly. So I was on the phone with a mentor of mine who had a similar type of childhood. And he was telling me, he goes, if you don't do this work, the next person, it's just going to get worse. And I know it. I knew it. And I know enough about to have the awareness. I knew it was true. And I'm like, and Blanka, I got to tell you, or I would love to tell you, when I really saw in my life and I witnessed how completely powerless I am and I was over what was going on. And when I say powerless, I mean like until I did the inner work, what was going to be coming to me was just going to be so much darker, so much meaner, so much, so much more painful. And knowing about it was one thing, but implementing the change, like I had to implement it from the inside out to create the results. Like, oh my God, then I really got it. Like this is a real thing in my life now. And I want to share something really wonderful, if I may. So I went through this process with Kim's weekend. I reworked my inner set point for the trajectory of my inner compass. And I wrote down things, like I was attracted to, I think I had this, God, a feeling of pain and rejection was familiar to me. A feeling of, I didn't realize that I was addicted to excitement. I would have said, that's not true. But it really was. I was like unconsciously addicted to something being painful and me trying to get it right. It's almost like before this work, that set point in my childhood, that familiar inner drugstore, if you will, was geared towards let me know that I'm alive because I feel pain. It's not what I want. And who would choose that? But it's where I was. And then after I did, this work, and then I was replacing it with new ideas and new beliefs. And I can remember I wrote them down. And one of my big ones was like innocence. And there was just something so precious about like, and I'm not saying like I'm not going to make mistakes or not be responsible for my choices as an adult. I'm just saying a feeling of being innocent, of being enough, of being worthy. I'm wanted, I'm welcome in all environments, and I love who I am. I'm innocent. And was just so precious, just really reframing the inside work. And I remember, even though I didn't want this old self-image that I'm telling you about, this whole belief system, when I was writing down first of everything I felt like unworthy, shame, how I identified myself in the world, like part of the exercise that we did was like we burned it, if you will. It was symbolic. We burned this piece of paper. And sorry about that noise. And when I went to go burn this piece of paper, I of my old me beliefs, I really had a moment, Blanca, where I was like, I know I don't want this, but it's how I know where I am in the world. I've never known myself any other way. And yet I burned it because I knew that I was in this environment, with Kim and the source, inside this platform. I knew I had the support and I could let it go just a moment and pick things that were healthy for me. And within 3 months, I was at an event. I didn't expect to run across another fellow or a gentleman. It's like, it was the last thing that I whatever. So, but I was at an event and a gentleman came up to me and he was, very handsome. He was very attractive and he introduced himself to me and he had the very same first name as my ex-boyfriend. And I stood there for a minute and I froze for a minute when he introduced myself. They had the same name and I froze and I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, his name was Tom. This other gentleman's name was Tom. And I stood there for a minute and I thought to myself, okay, you don't know who he is.
Don't relate to the other one.
And this is going to show you where you are and how much work you've done and maybe where you need to go. So we exchanged contacts. We went on a first date, and even the first date was like Blanka. It was like somebody, and it was still, I guess you could say, kind of like riveting, if you will. It was like calming down on the inside. But Blanka, it was like somebody took me from a movie set of where I was having experience with this man I was dating, and it was horrible, it was hurtful, it was painful. This really, really was. They took me from that movie set, and it's like they dropped me into another movie set. I still kind of felt like me, like the same person, but what was going on in front of me was totally different. Here was a man, he was emotionally intelligent, available, kind, loving, caring, affectionate, just it was like the complete opposite of the man I was dating before. And it was so, I'm just sitting there going like almost in a state of shock, like here I am. It was like somebody took me from one movie set to another movie set, but I really just felt like me, still kind of the old me.
Yes.
And I remember I was going to certain events with this new gentleman, and my friends were like a witness to this old relationship. And it was really interesting because he's this new gentleman that I was dating. He had so many beautiful qualities, very, very, so many things to say. The most prominent thing that my friends said is they met him and they just stood back and they went, he's so nice, and there's a million things that you could say about a person after that. They were just like, he's so nice. Because the contrast between the two personalities were so very different. And they had never seen me with somebody like that before. And they were just kind of like puzzled. And that really, really speaks to this material.
How does this suit?
Yeah. So there's,
Wonderful.
Yeah.
I love this story. This is so, and what comes down now is really to be what kind of position do we have as a mother to raise our children with confidence and with resilience? And it's really to take the responsibility, because what we are talking to them again and again and again becomes their direction for life. And it's what you just shared. You grabbed it from your parents, from your father. It was the voice of your father inside of your head. So it doesn't matter if it's mother-wise or father-wise, but it's from our environment that is really setting us up for life. And if we are aware of this or not, it takes a little knowledge about this. It takes the courage to make a change. And it's so wonderful that you share this, how you were in this position of suffering, and to really set the line in the sand and say, okay, here I have to stop. Even if you think, yes, I love this, I'm familiar with this, I want to make it right, I want to go with this man, even if he's toxic to you, just because of your programming from the past. And how you said, it's a lie, it's not you. And you have got the strength to say, okay, I make a decision here and I stop this. You said it with your last strength, just to say, okay, here, stop. And then make a change and do the work and be in the right environment to get those people who support you. Because I think if you do this alone, I don't know if this is possible.
I don't know that I could have done it alone. I do so much alone, and I would have tried to do it alone. I would have preferred to do it alone, but it's just so much easier to be with people that have already gone through this and they're headed in a positive direction, or they just, they can be supportive. Like, I keep mentioning the source because it's an online personal development platform that I go in and I can hear my mentor there. And people can, hear me when I do events. And there's something about being in the presence of somebody's awareness who is positive, who sees in you what you can't see in yourself. It's just, I want to say it creates a vehicle for change. It's like you can probably reference this if you've ever gone in like into a symphony or maybe in a church or some other place and you walk in and the energy is there and you feel different than when you were by yourself. Well, this is the same type of thing. So when I get in a different energy, it's easier for me to change because it's already there. And when you feel, you get a bunch of people together, like positive, like batteries, and then you bring yourself in this environment, even if it's for 30 minutes in the morning or 15 minutes in the morning, your whole day changes because it's only ever now. That's a big thing. Like a lot of us, and maybe, maybe the person listening to this is different, but an old way of thinking is like we look at our current results and we blame and we judge ourselves. In this new model, we learn that our current results are just a manifestation of our past thinking. And if I'm God's highest form of creation, and so are you, then what do I need to change about my thinking, feeling, and acting to align with the results that I want? Well, that's a game changer. And when you do that in a fun way with a child, it's great because they don't have to wait till Tuesday. They don't have to, and you don't have to wait till Tuesday. It's like, I don't have to go finish 5,000 tasks. I don't have to go to get a degree. I don't have to wait until this thing is paid off. I don't have to wait until somebody likes me. I have the freedom in this moment right now. And when we teach our children that, well, that changes everything.
Totally. I totally agree. This is so wonderful. So what are you offering? If people say, oh, that's wonderful, I want to reach out to Laura, what's your offer?
Well, my offer, which is really exciting, is a 2-week free membership to The Source, this online personal development platform that I'm telling you about. And so I'll share a link with that. And what you'll do is you'll download it on your phone. And then when you come in, I'll greet you and I'll show you around inside this online platform. And then there'll be like a master class that you'll get to hear Kim teaching, which is all about the awareness that I'm telling you about making a decisions, show you how the beliefs are created, and then you can just start your journey. And I got to tell you that in seconds, everything can change. Like you said, there is work to be done, but in a moment, because there's only ever now, the entire trajectory of your life can change. So I'm going to drop that link in the chat here, and then you can share it and post it. It doesn't expire. So once you log on, you'll get the 2 weeks for free. You can come inside The Source. I'll greet you in there, show you around, and you can start with the tools in there of doing the gratitude on a daily basis in the morning. You'll get to meet Carrie, the Source manager, who I told you about. You'll get to meet my mentor, Kim Calvert, and a lot of other dynamic people. They're ordinary people living extraordinary lives. Some of them are very accomplished. Some of them are millionaires. Some of them are business people. Some of them are younger kids, but you'll get to be in there in a positive environment and, see what's available for you.
Great. So wonderful. So I love to have you here on this podcast to share really what it means to do the inner work and to grow yourself and to get yourself in another position just with doing something that is not so usual in our world because we are so focused on the outside. And this is actually to work on your inside. And here, because we are not taught in school, we are not taught from our parents, not so many people know about this and what it means to work on your inside. Like you shared, do some gratitude practice and get some routine inside. Do this on the daily basis, do this consistently, don't give up, and all your life can change. And I've got so many examples.
Totally.
It is.
Totally. Yeah. Everything happens from the inside out, because everything is energy, and when you come inside The Source and you watch these teachings, from Bob Proctor, you'll see like everything is energy. And we know this, right? But everything's on a frequency. So if you think about lines of frequency, if we wake up in the morning and we just start, you get in The Source and you get in there for 2 weeks and I'll help you out. I'll greet you when you come in and we'll start doing your gratitude. What happens is you raise your level of frequency in the morning. Instead of your automatic set point, I told you what mine was when I was a kid. I told you where I woke up. I probably woke up feeling down here, and I had certain thoughts and feelings down here on this frequency. And as you do your gratitude in the morning, you're raising your levels of frequency, your automatic set point, your feeling, your energy is on a different basis. And when your energy is on a different basis and it keeps going up, all the thoughts and beliefs and the people that you meet are going to be completely different here within 5 days than what was happening down here. You knew you're going to get more of the same here. But when you adjust, you're going to get different people, different thoughts, different feelings. And then when you start to align and you start asking yourself, what would I love to see happen? How would I love it to be? If anything was possible, you start adding that in there, whole new world, whole new
That's
world.
wonderful. Yes, and like you shared, after 3 months, another man just showed up. Some would say it's a miracle, and you would say it's my work, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's never too late. You know, I'm a
No.
great, it's never too
Yeah,
late, you know.
I love this. Thank you so much for being my guest here. I love to share your story. And yes, please stay tuned for the upcoming episodes. And yes, subscribe my podcast, Renew Motherhood.